So quick question for everyone. Who here has heard AI is going to change everything in the last week? Raise of hands. Now, keep your hand up if you've also heard a detailed explanation of how AI thinks differently than humans. We're surrounded by excitement about AI's potential, but we rarely dive into the nitty-gritty of how it actually works and when it doesn't work. In this presentation, you'll learn how to identify where AI truly excels, learn to recognize its hidden pitfalls, and make informed decisions about AI in your use case. So we'll start with playing a little game. So what is this? Right? And shout out the answer when you have it. Kim Kardashian, a person, right? And the AI can do this too. It recognizes this as a person with 88% confidence. Now, what is this? A cat, right? And this? What about this one? Yeah, upside down Kim Kardashian. So you say upside down Kim Kardashian, but the AI says it's actually coal, black coal. In fact, with nearly 80% confidence. Why were you able to get it right, but the AI didn't? Humans, it turns out, have a much richer representation of objects than the AI has. We have these invariabilities. For instance, position invariability. An object can be at a different position in the image, and we still recognize the object. We have pose invariability. It can be at a different pose or angle, and we still recognize it. That AI we just saw didn't have pose invariability because when we flipped the image upside down, it was no longer recognized by the AI. So AI does not understand as deeply as we do. It's not building these robust models of images that we have. It's easy for us humans to imagine a golfer swinging from the tee box without a golf club, but not for the AI. If you ask ChatGPT to create an image for this prompt, you get this extra floating golf club. And the problem is that AI learns off of correlations. So golfers and golf clubs are highly correlated. They often show up together in the tee box. And so the AI is picking up on this correlation, and it's getting this wrong answer. Here's another one. I say, Dr. Mary stands to solve world hunger by giving her best friend Jane a call. Jane is certain she can solve world hunger if she gets the call. However, Mary and Jane bickered as children about butterflies. Mary will blank give Jane the call. So what do you think? Is world hunger something the AI should help us solve, right? The AI says no, not give her the call. Sorry, we bickered as children about butterflies. No solving world hunger today. Again, it's that problem of correlation. So the AI is picking up on this common pattern in how we use language. We'll often give a proposition, then say however, and give some argument for that, and then disagree with the original proposition. And so the AI is picking up on that pattern, and on that basis, it's deciding to give the answer of not. And in fact, the AI will answer in the same kind of way, almost regardless of the content. So I say helping others is good. However, spaghetti is not very tasty. Therefore, you should blank help others. And again, the AI says you should not help others. So again, the AI is picking up on these correlations, and they are sometimes wrong, and it leads the AI to reason in a very different way than we do. So I want you to take to heart that AI thinks differently than humans. You should not expect the strengths and weaknesses to be similar for humans as it is for AI. Now, that cat you all recognized earlier, the AI thought it was guacamole. And I'm fairly confident in saying that there was no one here that thought that image of a cat was guacamole. I'm 100% sure that there was no one who thought there was 19 different ways that that image looked just like guacamole. But the AI did. And in fact, Dan and his team at Stanford showed that there are on average 19 different ways to change the image in a way that's imperceptible to humans, but that causes the AI to get it wrong. And you should care about this because that stop sign, the AI thought it was a 45-mile-per-hour sign. Now imagine you're pulling up to an intersection and you see another car and you expect it to stop at the stop sign, so you accelerate forward. But instead of slowing down, it speeds up. There have been real lives lost due to misclassifications from the AI. And these are often mistakes that no human would make. There's Tesla's self-driving car thinking that the moon was a yellow light, or people putting traffic cones on their cars to confuse Waymo vehicles. So given the bizarre nature of AI, how do we decide when are the good use cases and when are the bad use cases? So in our book, The AI Conundrum, we developed this risk framework, and it has these 3 axes which correspond to 3 basic questions you should ask when applying AI. So how much precision do you need in your use case? How strongly do you need rationale? So how much do you need to understand what the AI is doing? And how much do you control the input? So are you in an open or closed environment? So let's look at that precision component first. So precision is about how precise or accurate you need the AI to be to get a good response. So math and science are in that high precision category. If I ask you to multiply 2 numbers, there's exactly 1 correct answer and everything else is wrong. So you need absolute precision for math and science. In fact, ChatGPT struggles with even basic math. So here I ask it to multiply 2 numbers, and the result is not the correct answer. So as you increase the amount of precision that the AI needs, the AI performs worse. On the other hand, it's great at tasks that require lower precision. So creative writing and image generation are 2 great use cases that require less precision. Here's an image of a dog with a plate of pizza. So there's lots of different ways you can create an image from that prompt, dog with a plate of pizza. If you're in this room earlier, you saw someone give a demo of almost this exact principle. They asked people to imagine what a dog would look like, and they saw that there's lots of different ways people imagined it. So there's more leeway in the output you get. There's a lot less precision required. And actually, you can see just how much precision matters in your use case by picking that same category of image generation and picking a subcategory that requires more precision. So let's say we're trying to generate the text in image. So there's lots of leeway in how you might imagine a dog, but there's a little bit less leeway in how you imagine different letters in the alphabet. So it requires more precision to create text than it does to create an image of a dog, for instance. And actually, if you've used AI for image generation, you know that it struggled with generating text for a while. Maybe you see up there in the corner, it doesn't exactly get the word "the" right, and it's pretty easy for us to see when it makes that misspelling. Let's also talk about Zillow. Zillow lost $4 billion when they switched from being a media company to being a company that was using their AI to buy and flip homes. So the Z estimate estimates the price of homes, and they wanted to use this to try and flip homes. And we computed that they had an accuracy of about ±7%, which is great for algorithms in this area. But you needed ±2% to make this business model work. And they're operating in the most difficult octant of the risk framework. So it requires high precision. They need that ±2% accuracy to make it work. They also have low input control. Zillow doesn't get to choose who buys and sells homes. If Zillow gives me an offer that undervalues my home, I'm just not going to accept the offer. But if they are willing to overpay, then I'll gladly accept. So that's that problem of adverse selection. They're operating in an open environment, and so they had to deal with adverse selection. And lastly, there's a high need for rationale. There's a lot of ways that Zillow could have caught on to what was happening if they understood why the AI was making its decision. But it's hard to understand why AI does what it does. So they needed rationale, but they didn't have it, and so they weren't able to catch this earlier. Now, we see marketing as in that ideal category of the risk framework. And so we've been doing some work in advertising and marketing. I'll pass on to Rex to talk about the exciting things we're doing in that category.
Thanks, Caleb. So some of the work, this was Caleb's framework, by the way, and when I first saw him present it when he was in high school, I was sitting next to a Google executive who leaned over and said, you know, we're seeing the same problems at Google, but nobody's talking about it. And that was a moment that I thought, we need to turn his thesis paper into a book, and MIT was the first to receive it. And not only did they sign him up for this book, they signed him on to where they get to see anything he produces in advance of him publishing it in case they want to publish it as well. But this framework was a really big deal. A lot of professors looked at it and said, this was a really great way of thinking about it. Now, the good news for us in marketing is we are actually in the ideal use case as long as we have a human in the loop. When we go outside of having a human in the loop, it's like putting that stop sign out there for anybody to add stickers to. And those stickers were strategically placed to hack it. That's why I asked a question about if you have a chatbot out there in the wild, it can be hacked. You can assess whether or not you have the risk If you use it for internal documents, that's sort of perfect because a human is in the loop. You know who's using it. You know how they're using it. So that access of whether or not you have low input control or whether you have high input control is really important. Now in advertising, we have a lot of input control. We can look at our workflow. In fact, this is what you heard Karan from MLB and Greg talk about earlier in the keynote session, which is that you can look at the workflow of how we build advertising, and you can say, you know, I'm going to focus on that, how we serve advertising, how we report on it, and how we optimize it internally, and I'm going to use AI to try to help optimize that. Over half of the budget is spent in communicating with consumers. Most of that's in paid media. So if we could double the conversion rate and maybe be more efficient and effective at it, that has a huge ROI impact. So this is what Claritas is doing with their technology of one-hot encoding, where they're looking at any data coming in, and they have unsupervised learning, and they're clustering who should get what messages. Now, the way that works, that's really this breakthrough, is your ability to break out the different parts of a message into features. And for the data scientists in the room, we know what features mean. It's our ability to look at those differences in templates or in audience features, like what time of day you're accessing it, what city you're accessing from, maybe if you have Claritas data on whether you're part of this segment or that segment, or weather data and so forth. So the AI is taking all that data in, and it's looking for combinations that predict your KPI. Now, in Major League Baseball's case, that's selling a ticket. For Shell, it might be downloading an app. And we'll talk about both of those really quickly. And we have the global CMO from Shell here, which is great as well. So let's talk about MLB. There's that question before about AI getting overwhelmed by having too many versions. That's true, but the way that this AI does is it pulls it apart into what's called a hierarchical autopoietic automation. What that means simply is hierarchical. It first looks to try to understand which of these templates is most likely to appeal to you personally at this moment in time, based upon what device you're on, where you're logging in, et cetera. So it might be a player ad, a fan ad, a ballpark ad. Now we can extend that more by saying, okay, well, what if we had different versions of which player we're going to show, or different versions of the player, different versions of the ballpark? Now we have 9 different versions, and the AI can begin to learn about images. And then as the AI learns about that, it can then also learn about different headlines. Now we're up to 18 different versions. And now we can learn about different call to actions, like whether it's better to say learn more or buy now. Now we're up to 36 versions. And that's just for this one ad size. We can have this by 4 different ad sizes, and there's transfer learning where the AI can learn across those different techniques. So that's what the AI is doing, and this is what it produces. It produces a map, and those different sizes of the circle is the different combinations of those different ads that the AI is solving for, and they appeal to different kinds of people. And what's really fascinating about this is when you look at the Claritas data on what segment you're in. I happen to live in the segment of Country Squires. Greg, I think, is probably Money and Brains or Network Neighbors. There's different neighborhoods that we live in. The AI is actually saying, well, overall, the people in Country Squires and winner circles or young Digerati are 30 to 40% more likely to buy a ticket to Major League Baseball. But they respond to different messages. And so for one of them, it's going to be this fan ad, and for the other, it's going to be more of the player-oriented ad. So the AI is making that decision based upon the neighborhood that you live in, deciding what message to deliver, including what website you're on. And it might be a different answer if you're on an Android device versus a iOS device, or Verizon versus AT&T. So there's all these combinations happening simultaneously. This is just one of them. So ultimately, what we can see, how do we know if it works? We have a control group where we've randomized all the ads and messages, and we get to read how many tickets are sold to that control group where AI is turned off, and we're comparing it to when AI is turned on. And that's what Karan was saying about the 133% increase to 23% increase range, or 65% overall. And we can look at that across all the different ads. We can also get insights into the black box of what the AI is doing by looking at how it's making different decisions by day and by neighborhood and by different group, and that makes us smarter as marketers. So I do think the AI is doing a lot on its own, but we get to benefit from learning from that AI. So this is a very exciting use case, and as Greg said, overall, it's been a 140% increase about what we've seen across these different brands that have tried this technology. We've tried a few of the other technologies that don't use as an advanced algorithm, and we haven't seen lift. So we do think this is genuinely new and different in the marketplace. Let me give you another really quick case study that was shared recently at the CEO CMO Summit. This is Shell Go. This is in the UK, where there's less data available, and it's the download of the app as a key goal. And they have 3 different themes. They have one that's a road trip, which is kind of a good idea because you're probably going to need gas and food when you're on your road trip, or the app that can just focus more on saving money, and then also the sponsorship with the Ferrari. Now, this one kind of blew me away because when we saw this data, the AI, in general, they all started with even rotation, and as soon as the AI learned enough, it began to say, well, the Ferrari ad is not leading a lot of people to download this app. It dropped it down to about 10%, a small segment of the people. But then it takes off, that Ferrari ad. That's the start of Formula One season, and the AI was automatically detecting that people were more likely to become engaged with that message and download the app as a response. And then there was something that happened in the middle that we didn't expect. That driver ended up in the hospital, and there was all this buzz online about what had happened to him. And the AI automatically detected that actually showing ads with the Ferrari one were more likely to get people to download the app, but you had to change the word from download now to join now. And it was about that connection and that affiliation and that support of that driver in some way. And so the AI is learning all these nuanced differences. And by the way, when that happened, there was over a 5x increases in people downloading the app and registering to be part of that Shell program. So these micro moments where AI can detect different patterns and respond to it and react to it in nuanced ways is what really makes, I think, this technology exciting in marketing. And it isn't a winner-take-all. This isn't an A-B split. This is a difference between looking at how all these different versions of those ads with different headlines and different call to actions and so forth are distributed to add incremental lift and conversions for Shell. So 200% increase is what they shared at the CMO Summit in terms of their overall business results. Pretty significant. And I will now come to the last use case, which is all of that was a human in the loop deciding what ads to deliver. What if you use Gen AI at the front end to be able to change some of the messages? And that is what Remy Kent, the CMO of Progressive, did with this technology. We built some technology to allow her to use her team to use Gen AI to create the scripts, and then to create synthetic voices, and then to create synthetic music, assemble that together, and they were able to create 96 different versions of the ad with one creative director, when normally it would have taken them many, many weeks just to create 3 ads. Actually, let's go ahead and play one quick ad from that so you can hear that, and then I'll give you the call to action.
Want the perfect auto insurance? It's like crafting the ultimate playlist. Progressive provides customers the confidence to pick what's best for them, whatever your life stage.
Perfect, and maybe you'll play one other voice just so you can hear some of the differences. So there were different scripts.
Perfect auto insurance? It's like crafting the ultimate playlist. Progressive
Perfect, that's
provides.
great. There were different scripts, there were different voices, there were different music beds combined, and the AI was able to then learn which ones were most likely to lead to a quote start and complete. So they increased their quote starts and completes by over 50%, and they had Gen AI at the front, make it more efficient with a human in the loop, and then AI doing that same type of optimization you saw with Shell and Major League Baseball, optimizing the results after market. I want you to think about this because the future is now. It is happening now. It's just unevenly distributed. You know, leaders like Carol and Karin are ahead of that game, and I think it's a great time to catch up and get engaged. And if you're more interested in learning more about learning, I learn more every single time I do one of these studies. It's what gets me excited about being involved in business. And it's one of the case studies that we talk about in part 2 of the book. If you haven't got a copy, there's a few more, probably in the library in case we run out here. But thank you so much for supporting this work and being engaged in AI.
Awesome. Give Caleb and Rex a round of applause.